Chapter 333, Predecessor Golden Dragon. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. Inside the stone gate, Zhang Yuochen steadied himself and performed an exercise to control his condition of the injury. The genuine qi circled inside his body and formed a large circle of vital energy. It started to heal his wounds. After a while, he took a long breath. He opened his eyes and said, "Di was so impressive. No wonder he could defeat Bukianfian, first on the earthboard, in only 3 moves. PHHF, the armor which had wrapped his right arm started to fade, revealing his bloody shoulder. The genuine qi helped scabs form on his cracked skin, leaving horrible scar lines. Inside the stone gate, there was no water. It looked very dry. The water in the Dragon Palace seemed to be blocked by a strange force from outside the stone gate. Chang Kiki stepped up in a hurry. "Junior fellow apprentice Zhang, you are already very excellent. You two fought just more than 3 moves. This means you are even more powerful than Bukianfan, the top warrior on the earthboard." Hearing this, the others realized this fact. They were greatly shocked. The battle between Zhang Yuochen and Di was indeed awesome. They had fought over 10 moves. Although Zhang Yuochen was obviously dominated, he had indeed blocked Di's attacks successfully. If this spread out, Zhang Yuochen would be famous in the Eastern region. He would even be published in the Eastern region report again. When Zhang Yuochen entered the top 100 of the earthboard, Chen Xie realized she had been underestimating his talent. She paid special attention to him after that, even wanting to steal him from Huang Yanjun. A genius in the top 100 of the earthboard was seen as a first-class warrior, even in Chen Xie's family. But now, she realized how wrong she'd been before. The top 100 of the earthboard was simply nothing for him. She was even more jealous of Huang Yanjun. Zhang Yuochen glanced at Chang Kiki. He shook his head and smiled. "You are underestimating Di." In the beginning, he didn't go all out. It wasn't until the very last strike that he exerted his full power. As you all know, it was that strike that wounded me so badly. Bukianfan blocked 2 of his moves and was only defeated after the 3rd move, which was very impressive. I don't think I would win if I fought Bukianfan with my current power. Zhang Yuochen's body was too weak, and he hadn't been practicing long enough. Fortunately, he had reached the ultimate realm in both the yellow and black realm. This was why he could fight with top geniuses now. There was still a gap between him and Di's inborn saintly being. It could only be made up with the space power and the martial soul power. Reaching the ultimate realm in both the yellow and black realm meant that his martial arts foundation was solid enough. With the deepening of his cultivation, his advantage would be gradually unveiled. It was the same as building a tower. The stronger the foundation was, the higher the tower could be. Di's foundation was his inborn saintly being. It was like the tower's column. If the column didn't fall, the tower would never fall, and it could be built higher and higher. Zhang Yuochen's foundation was his steadiness and perfection in every realm. It was like constructing a huge wide pedestal on the base floor. Xingkong said, "Di burst out the power of saintly being in the last strike. What's more, his martial technique was the Human King Fist, a ghost-level inferior class martial technique. I'm horrified just thinking about it. Fortunately, he hasn't succeeded in the Human King Fist, or chances are that I couldn't have taken that strike," said Zhang Yuochen. He laughed and continued, "Of course, if I had succeeded in Divine Dragon's Steel, the 6th palm of the dragon and elephant Prajna palm, I wouldn't have gotten hurt." Practicing martial techniques was not a short-term task. Zhang Yuochen had started practicing at the age of 16 years later than Di. He had done pretty well considering. "Cousin-in-law, your wound is not yet healed. I found a healing spiritual dose, worm heart grass. It can help with your recovery." Chen Xie took out a white spiritual flower and handed to Zhang Yuochen. She stared at him with tenderness and love, as if she was ingratiating herself with him deliberately. Zhang Yuochen didn't stand on ceremony. He looked the worm heart grass over and sniffed the myrrh-like fragrance. The worm heart grass was 800 to 900 years old. Its leaves, petals and rhizome were all white as snow, as if spiritual fluid was flowing inside it. It is indeed a great healing treasure. Jiang Yuochen glanced at Chen Xie. Thanks. Chen Xie put on a shallow smile. My dear cousin-in-law, we are family. There's no need to thank me. Besides, I wouldn't have even gotten this worm heart grass if you hadn't taken me here in the first place. Jiang Yuochen released spiritual fire genuine Qi and refined the worm heart grass in his hand. Suspended on his palm, the worm heart grass started to melt into a ball of white liquid. Jiang Yuochen split it into 3 portions and handed 2 to Ziqian and Huang Yanjun. He took the last one for himself. The worm heart grass was indeed a healing treasure. An hour later all 3 of them had fully recovered. The scabs on Jiang Yuochen's arm fell off, revealing flawless skin without any scars. What's more, he felt that even his martial soul had recovered a little bit. The dull throbbing in his head stopped. They started to march on. They went through the long passage and entered the hinterland. The passage became wider and wider. A beam of golden light appeared before them. They came to an underground square. The square was as big as 2 football fields and surrounded by stone walls with golden carvings. A golden fireball suspended above. A small golden dragon appeared to be flying inside. It was so easy to get here. I thought we would have encountered many arrays and danger. I wonder, where was the golden dragon buried? Chang Kiki rubbed his hands together and looked around. Jiang Yuochen also felt it was a little odd. Why was the golden dragon's tomb so easy for them to break into? Just then, Jiang Yuochen noticed something wrong. He looked at Chang Kiki who was speaking a second ago, only to find that he wasn't moving and his body started to glow gold. It was as if he was turning into a golden statue. And it wasn't just Chang Kik. Sik Singkong, Chen Xie, Huang Yanjun, Duan Mook Singerling, Ziqian and even Guogo the rabbit had all stopped moving. There was no sense of life coming from them. What happened? Senior sister apprentice Huang. Jiang Yuochen's expression changed. He walked up to Huang Yanjun and tried to touch her hand. The moment he touched her hand, he was flicked away by an electric current. Young man, don't panic. I've merely stopped them with my King Kong Buddhist doctrine. They aren't dead. Came an ancient voice. The voice was hoarse yet divine, like the voice of a saint from above the 9 heavens. Swoosh! A small golden dragon flew down from the fireball and morphed into an old man covered in golden light. He stood in front of Jiang Yuochen. The elder looked very kind. His face was full of wrinkles, and his long hair dropped to the ground. In his hand was a Buddha rod. A circle of Buddha's light could be seen behind his head. Jiang Yuochen was extremely excited, even moved to tears. Immediately, he bowed and sobbed, "Predecessor Golden Dragon." The elder was confused. "Young man, do I know you? 800 years ago, I met you once at Ming Emperor Palace. You taught me some sword techniques at the time. I still remember your words, even today." With misted eyes, Jiang Yuochen smiled. 800 years had passed. These 2 souls remained, but they were not the same men they once were. Almost everyone he had once known, his friends and family, all had died. Seeing an old predecessor, Jiang Yuochen couldn't express his excitement and sorrow. For the Golden Dragon, it had been 800 years. But for Jiang Yuochen, it had only been 2 or 3 years. It was like waking up from a dream, and everything had changed but you. No one could accept that easily. The Golden Dragon's human image was exactly the same as he was 800 years ago. Jiang Yuochen recognized him immediately. For the past 2 years, Jiang Yuochen had been holding back his feelings. He finally let his emotions flow freely. The Golden Dragon was astonished. He said, "Young man, if I am right, you are no more than 20 years old, aren't you?" Jiang Yuochen explained, 800 years ago, during the martial competition between the Buddhist Emperor and Emperor Ming, you went to Ming Emperor Palace with the Buddhist Emperor. I was only 9 years old then. One day, while Princess Kai Yao and I were practicing yin-yang 2 forms sword array in the garden, you passed by and watched us for a while. Then, you walked up to us and told us we had good talent, but that yin-yang 2 form sword array wasn't suitable for us to practice. Princess Kai Yao slashed at you. She was very angry and asked you if you dared to say that again. You simply smiled and told us that yin-yang 2 form sword array's full power could only be given out by 2 true lovers. We knew nothing about love, yin-yang or harmony. So, It was only a waste of time for us to practice it. We could only master the moves but not the essence. You suggested we practice it in 10 years' time. Hearing Zhang Yuochen repeating the exact same words he'd said 800 years ago, the Golden Dragon was incredibly shocked. You are Emperor Ming's son. When a warrior reached 20-level spiritual power, he would be gifted with an extraordinary retentive memory. So, even though 800 years had passed, the Golden Dragon could still recall what had happened on that day.